In today's video, I am going to unbox the Sword and Sorcery Ancient Chronicles Legendary Pledge. But before we get into today's video, just want to share with you what the GGGG is for this month. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month of July of 2022, we have the printed and painted Ghost Ship Dice Tower from Mythic Roll, as well as two others receiving the STLs for this ship. We have two pledges for the current X-Terrain Kickstarter sci-fi terrain. We have $100 that's going to go towards a crowdfunder, which the Patreon supporters are voting upon. And this entire box of goodies is also going to be one of the gratitude gifts. If you want to get in on that, click on the link below to go to my Patreon page. So the original Sword and Sorcery Kickstarter was way back in the fall of 2015, and I backed that game, received that game in 2017, and produced a super long instructional how to play video over an hour long. But apparently it was really popular because it had over 114,000 views on it. And the reason why the tutorial was really long is because this has a crunchy rule set, sort of an old-fashioned dungeon crawler, not necessarily streamlined. If you want some of those crunchy rules and in-depth play, Sword and Sorcery really scratches that itch. The AI system I really feel like is excellent in this game. So that initial Kickstarter was successful with raising over $500,000. And 2 years later, in 2017, they came out with a second Kickstarter, and Ancient Chronicles is a standalone game. You don't need the original Sword and Sorcery. It's a new storyline, new miniatures, new heroes, all of those things. So this is a standalone game of that excellent system. I also happen to have their sci-fi version of the game, which again, I think is a great game to be able to solo and to play cooperatively because, again, has a great AI system. Now, Ares was kind enough to send this box to me, and they did agree that it was going to be one of the gratitude gifts for my Patreon supporters. I'm not going to be playing the game or reviewing the game, but basically going to be doing an unboxing. Assume that it still has that great system, AI system, and level up system that is really satisfying about dungeon crawlers, my favorite genre of games. So without further ado, let's go ahead and unbox this and see what's in this package. Now, while we're unboxing this, I do know that there is an agreement between Ares and a more recent Kickstarter. Don't quite remember the name. I'll look that up after I film, but basically it will automate all of the AI for Sword and Sorcery. And I don't know if it's the original game or if it is this version, but look for a Kickstarter that will come out. It's sort of a second iteration of this gaming system, which introduces an electronic component to the game. It's not an app, but actually a digital board that keeps track of different components and things like that, and it will automate it. So if you're daunted by the AI system and a lot of the bookkeeping that happens with Sword and Sorcery, that might be a good avenue to go towards. But I do know that this is available to purchase. At least I looked at my friendly local game store, Miniature Market, and they do have it available for sale, actually for relatively cheap. So if this looks interesting, encourage you to go ahead and check that out. I'll provide a link below if you do want to order from Miniature Market, but they are available from other vendors as well. So this is one of the expansions. It says it is for heroes level 3 to 7. And then pulling out here, this might be the stretch goals. That's what I am assuming. Well, look, it has a list of all of the backers. That's really cool. And this is the base box. So here's the back of the base box. And one of the things that I really like about Sword and Sorcery is you can play up to 5 players. So my game group is more than 4, so I always like games that you can add more players. So that's a really good thing. And I'm not going to take out all of these tokens out of shrink wrap since I am going to be shipping this to one of my Patreon supporters who Bob picks to receive this game. But seems to be the same quality of chits and pieces that you can find in the original Sword and Sorcery, so I'm confident that that is still going to be good. So this looks like a town map and various town locations. Thankfully, they do have a cheat sheet or a rules guide here, which I always find to be really helpful. And just like the original, this is the Book of Secrets, where you will reference each one of these as you go along, since there are branching paths to the story and locations. Here are the hero sheets. You have the storybook and the rule book. I don't know if there were rules changes between the first iteration and the second iteration. I'm sure Board Game Geek has some references to that. And then here are a bajillion cards, just like in the original game. Had a ton of cards. And I think this is the monster deck, AI deck mostly. And you have the specialized D10s. And then here, I'm assuming, are all of the miniatures. So let's check out the miniatures in the base box. And like in the original game, you have the different colored enemies, which determines their how tough they are. And it looks like you have these new heroes. You have a good number of them, as well as this companion. Oh, that's like a tiger companion, which looks super cool. Let's check this skinny person out. So the details on these models are really good, just like in their original game. And I like that these are very distinct. These little dinosaur riders are really distinct from their first game as well. And my guess is that you can mix and match minions and things like that with the original game along with this one. So that looks really good. And I think the base box isn't a super overwhelming amount of miniatures. Sometimes they have so many miniatures that you're just so overwhelmed from painting any of them. I actually did provide a painting tutorial on how to paint the Orc Shaman from the first game. So this is a Northwind Tales expansion, and I think it's a great idea to be able to level up your characters beyond 3rd level. It says here, heroes have accomplished their mission in the dark caves of Underrain, but now the lands of the north and the entire fabric of reality are in peril. And it is an additional 9 interconnected quests, which I think is great. So, yeah, it's a great idea, I think, to be able to continue to level up your characters once you achieve 3rd, which I think is a goal in the first box, the initial box. So again, you have a really thick Book of Secrets. And then this is all bound, but you have additional monsters and hero options that you can have. Check out this guy. An undead dragon, it looks like, or maybe a demon. Not 100% sure, but that guy looks super cool. Bunch of cards, monster cards, things like that. Let's check out the miniatures in this box. So these look cool as well. I mean, check out this boss monster. This guy on horseback. Or whatever kind of horse that is with 8 legs. So he looks really cool. You have the 2 additional heroes that you can play. The Sasquatch guy, which looks cool. And more things to be able to fight. So I think this is the stretch goals box, but let's check it out. And is it stretch goals? Because it looks like these, I know you can purchase most of these if I am not incorrect. What are in these? Reference sheet, enemy scroll cards, 12 enemy cards, 16 plastic figures. So maybe these are additional monsters. Nemesis, there are 2 sides to coin. Each hero can find their nemesis I know in the original you could pick whether or not you wanted to be dark or light as your character, which I thought was super cool. I think these are stretch goals because these are additional heroes that were unlocked. And this is a card holder, which I appreciate because there are a ton of cards in this game. Yeah, it does look like stretch goals. Here is a dice bag, additional dice, more cards. So we got spawn gates and God's altars. So this is, sounds like this is terrain. We've got minions, 10 Venom plastic figures. And as we go through this, I'll go ahead and put on the screen pictures of these various, the contents of these various things if they are currently available. Kickstarter set. So I don't know if any of these are exclusives, Kickstarter exclusives. That isn't available at retail, but maybe they are. And it looks like there's a bunch of character cards here. Another location. Yes, lots of different characters that you can play. Oh, that's a cool character. So that's all of the content that you're going to find in the Legendary Hero Pledge, which I think is a ton, and a full-blown campaign that's going to take you up to 7th level with the expansion as well. So plenty here, I think, to keep you occupied and going through this dungeon crawler, and also the replayability because you have so many different heroes that you can play. I did play the original Sword and Sorcery as a solo, which is very manageable, and it does scale according to the number of heroes very well. So I managed 2 heroes throughout that campaign, and pretty much I'm assuming you're going to be able to do the same. So in terms of a solo experience, I think this is a great experience in addition to playing a full 5-player game. Again, sort of the crunchy, in-depth leveling system that I just love about dungeon crawlers. You're going to find in Sword and Sorcery, one of my favorite dungeon crawlers among the many that have come out since 2015, but this is definitely a great one. So use the link below to go to my Patreon page if you are interested in getting in on the possibility of being chosen by Bob to receive this whole set as a gratitude gift, which I will mail out to you. Bob's going to be making his picks at the end of this month, the last Sunday of this month. And if you don't want to wait, go ahead and use some of my links below if you do want to purchase this game for yourself. Otherwise, happy gaming. We'll see you next time.